Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at here on this fine Sunday, March 9th, 2025. Local time here, 10:42 a.m. I can't get used to that time change there. We lost an hour overnight. Spring forward, right? I kind of wish they would just leave it alone, but there's a lot of different opinions on that. Either way, expect some beautiful, longer sunsets, right? Later sunsets, I should say. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe. Let's go ahead and look at earthquake activity, see what we got. It shows a 1.5 across California. A little bit of movement still here across the Nankai Trough. Let's go ahead and zoom in, see what we have for the data here. Now, yesterday, man, we had a number of earthquakes out here in the 5 range. I noticed that the USGS downgraded here one of these earthquakes from a 5.9 to a 5.7, but nonetheless, that's still considerable amount of earthquake activity on the large size around the southern end here of the Nankai Trough. Now, if we pull up the oceanic crust map, the Nankai Trough sits right about here. Last major ruptures there was back in 1944, although section I believe it's E over here, the extreme eastern section, did not have any rupture. So a little concerned here that there's potential to see this experience a mega quake on it here soon. And this earthquake activity yesterday is very reminiscent of what happened last year. We had a swarm of earthquakes here roughly in the same area, and the Japanese government here put out a mega quake warning. They increased the chances here of seeing a megaquake on the subduction zone quite drastically higher compared to years past because of the earthquake activity here. So that was last year. This is yesterday. So similar situation, obviously adding further strain here. One more earthquake today across the Izu Trench, but it's upstream here, not into the subduction zone. But I'm sure it's still continuing to add a lot of strain here across this region. Got to watch that because that's going to be a big one when it does decide to go. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Further movement down south here across the Philippines, southward. Quite a few smaller quakes. A lot more activity stirring up out here in this area of the world today. Not so much down across Papua New Guinea eastward along the plate boundary. In fact, nothing is showing up here on the map, and it was like this yesterday as well. So we got a couple days here of quiet activity. That will normally fill in quite nicely, so to speak, here in terms of larger movement. So keep an eye here on this quiet zone today. I have a feeling that will fill in. It always does. It never goes quiet like that for too long. Just an area of the world where things are always active. Almost always seen earthquake activity here across the Kermadec Trench, Tonga Trench, Fiji area. So expect that to fill in sometime today, if not by the end of this update video. It seems to happen that way. Okay, looking at the west coast, let's check out Hawaii here real quick, see what we got going on out here. On the Big Island, a little bit of movement today. Just some 2s, 3-pointer just after midnight. Now, this Kilauea volcano eruption here has just been an ongoing thing for a little while. Let's go ahead and pull up the Kilauea updated information here. We're still looking at a pause as of the 5th. Episode number 12 came to a pause after erupting for just about 22 hours. Now, if we look at the deformation data here across the Kilauea volcano, there is the eruption. Had a few days of inflation leading up to the eruption point. Of course, eruption depletes the volume of magma below to where we're at back on the 5th to that pause. Now we've been going up here for the past few days. I expect to see a return of the eruption there at Kilauea volcano quite possibly tonight, maybe tomorrow morning here. If we look at the charts here over the last month, they've had a similar pattern. You know, you can pretty much predict here, seems like, the next eruption. Pretty crazy, but if there's ever a time to get out there and see the eruption before it happens, during this odd sequence of events here that we've seen, episode 12, right? We've seen 12 events of similar design here, or similar episodes, and that's a little odd. Haven't seen anything like that in quite a while, but it's following the current pause is following the previous stages. There, we're just going up. Here's the last 2 days going up here on inflation. That tells us that things are building back up underneath the area again for another eruption, possibly tonight, maybe tomorrow, Monday morning. So we'll continue to watch that. Real quick glance at let's check out the webcams here real quick, see what we got. Summit area, still quite a bit of volcanic gases here, but that's been like that for quite a while, including out here across the area of the crater lava lake region. Looks like it may be a little colder out there. That volcanic gases there shown quite nicely in that webcam image, but no eruption. Again, that'll probably happen tonight, early tomorrow morning. But no unusual activity to note here, just a rinse and repeat cycle across the Kilauea volcano. All right, California area, Southern California. Make sure the bells are off, which they are. A couple earthquakes here in the last hour or so. One earthquake here near the Palomar Observatory. That's just off the Elsinore Fault. This region had a pretty decent amount of earthquake activity, a little swarm there. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but it's been awfully quiet since then. Things may be starting to fill in there with a 2.5. Following that 2.5, a 1.1, closer to the San Andreas Fault there, the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault there in Southern California. Definitely got to watch that. It's under a lot of strain, a lot. It's not like we just had a big earthquake here 100 years ago. It's 300 years ago since we've seen a full rupture here of the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. And specifically, this segment down here has a lot of strain built up. Other areas up north are coming up too. 1812, can't remember the exact dates here, but a lot of time has passed out here, folks. It's coming up. We've been living in some quiet times, geologically speaking here, but that's not going to be the case for much longer. Probably going to hear more about earthquakes and volcanoes here in the future. Let me back out of here, check out the 2.5 model. One more up here in Northern California, as far as above 2.5. That's up there across the Petrolia area. A couple of smaller earthquakes up here, southern end of the Cascadia. There's a 13-mile deep, 1.7 from yesterday. That's associated with the Cascadia subduction zone here underneath this area. Nothing big happening there for now, but 325 years ago, a big old 9-pointer struck out here across the Cascadia. San Francisco, a couple smaller earthquakes here today. Well, actually, it looks like these are from yesterday. Up north here, across the geysers area, and there's really actually no geysers up here. They just call it that. I've been up there numerous times. There's a lot of geothermal plants up here, and this earthquake activity is occurring within the geothermal field, and there's many of these power plants out here. They utilize the heated area below to create energy. And at the same time, it induces earthquakes out here. To see 50 earthquakes here in the last 24 hours, well, that's average, probably maybe even a little bit below average. The last 30 days, 1,659 earthquakes out there in the geothermal fields, with the largest being a 2.9. Occasionally, we can get some earthquakes that are felt and even do some damage out here, but not as of late. Those can be up in the upper 4 range, maybe even the lower 5 range here. But for now, they're keeping all the earthquakes under, according to the USGS, underneath the 3.0 range. Which is probably good. All right, let's see what else we got. Washington, pretty quiet up there. Of course, it is a weekend, so remember some of these smaller quakes out there that may be occurring up in Washington, Oregon, even up in Yellowstone, will not show up here until Monday morning after everyone gets into the office. That's how it's been. That's how it's always going to be. For whatever reason, the smaller quakes do not get reported here. There's a threshold that needs to be reached in order for it to be published onto the map here. But I will double check the Yellowstone National Park here real quick. See what we got. One earthquake out here. I could see it quite nicely earlier this morning, it looks like. About 8 or 9 o'clock mountain time there. That earthquake showing up across a good portion of the seismograph stations out here. It's probably, I'm guessing, a 2-pointer. That was, again, just a couple hours ago. I don't know if it's going to be this earthquake, 2.2. That's a ways over there across the Hebgen Lake area. But it might be. I mean, it's very possible. It's picking it up over here as well. So maybe that is that one earthquake showing up. Little 2-pointer. Nothing big. Let's see. Texas area looks a little bit quieter out here today. Only a handful of quakes in the one range out there across the oil fields, the Permian Basin region. The rest of the country, pretty quiet out there. Nothing major going on. So far as the largest earthquake here in the last 24 hours, well, that goes to the 5.7 there, 2 5.7s there, southern end of the Nankai Trough, just off the coast of Japan. Watching that pretty closely. After midnight, the largest quake, wow, only a 4.7 here across the Philippines. Earlier this morning, about 8:30 or so, my time, local time here. Pretty good swarm of activity here. Continue to keep an eye on that region because it is showing quite a bit of movement out here in that huge cluster, including a recent 3.7 right now. So a lot of strain being accumulated out here across the western side of the Filipino Plate. That's could be leading to something bigger out there. We'll have to watch that. Puerto Rico Trench, getting a little bit more activity over here across that Caribbean plate. It's going to be this movement right here, including a 4.3 over around the Dominican Republic region, 67 miles deep here. That is a deep one. There's the Mariotas Trough right here, Puerto Rico Trench. This area is kind of on the uplift out here. They can get some big earthquakes here, big ones. I don't remember the last time we had a big earthquake. Let me double check here real quick. I'm going to go 5.5 and above. I just want to go back here and take a look real quick, folks. Since we got all day, going to draw a little rectangle out here on the Mariotas Trough, which is right about here. I'm just kind of curious. I can get some deep ones here as well, but see what we got here for historical data. There's your earthquakes, largest magnitude. Look at that, man, 7.5 out there. That's a big one. At 1615. How do they know that? Well, geologists know their stuff, right? Seismology, it takes a little bit of digging around, look for adjustments and whatnot. But yeah, big one out there in 1615, 7.5. That was right over here off the coast of the Dominican Republic. 7.3, 1867 Virgin Islands earthquake. That's a lot of time has passed since then. Far as any newer activity goes in this area, goodness, when was it? 6.4 here, Puerto Rico. That was back in 2020. But far as the full release out here, looking at a lot of time that has passed out here across the Mariotas Trough. So got to keep an eye on that region as well. It's been showing, quite a bit of uptick here recently. More so following that 7.6 that struck over here outside the Cayman Islands area. You guys remember that one? The largest earthquake so far this year. 7.6, Georgetown, Cayman Islands region, outside of that area, fortunately. Since that earthquake struck, it seems to have been putting the strain out here across the Puerto Rico Trench and the Mariotas Trough here. Right in this area. So keep an eye on it. Could be looking at maybe some larger activity about ready to take place. Just all the signs are there. All right, let's see what else we have out here across the earthquake 3D globe. Some movement out in the fracture boundary out here. That's going to be the Gulf of Aden. Nothing showing up here on the USGS model, but Got a little bit of activity. 4.4 this morning, it looks like. Santorini, Greece area. I'm not seeing anything major showing up. Let's just give a real quick view here of the Raspberry Shake data station around the Santorini, Greece area. Still seeing some earthquake activity out there. 427 earthquakes, with the latest earthquake looks to be a 1.0 there in the mix. Still just, nothing's changed here. No unusual activity. This is crazy just to say that, but there's been a lot of earthquake movement out here in the last several weeks. No main event, just a little continued earthquake activity. It really wasn't a main event. There's not like there was a 7-pointer, and then we're seeing a bunch of aftershocks. This is just one of the most intense earthquake swarms that I've ever seen anywhere on the planet. So, again, 7-pointer didn't struck, and then we're seeing, thousands of aftershocks. It never took place like this. It just started off with a bang. Literally with a lot of earthquakes here of really no main magnitude, just thousands and thousands, probably 17,000 or more earthquakes following that event there. So we'll watch it. That's about all we can do right now, right? Really can't say otherwise. 4.3 down here across the southern end of the Philippine Trench. Got a little migration going on here. Keep an eye on the Philippine Trench right here. That area can see some large earthquakes as well. There's a subduction zone. All right, see if there's anything else major happening out here. Quiet zone out here. Watch that. It's just a lot of activity happening out here in the ever-changing world. All right, space weather. Let's get out of this world and go see what's going on out in space here. Looks like, from what I hear, there's quite a few auroras up there last night across the higher latitudes. KP index stretching up around the 6 range almost. That was overnight. Since then, things have died off. But could see some lingering conditions here, even into the night, just due to the high-speed solar wind stream and the conditions there with the interplanetary magnetic field allowing the solar wind stream to, really kick up there and provide those auroras. So we'll see what happens later tonight. Not really expecting anything major. As far as any flaring activity goes, let's see here what we have. Is this the latest image? It is. Still have a couple active areas out there on the eastern limb. Let's see if we can see them today. Man, really can't see them yet. There has been a number of large sea flares out here on the eastern limb. More down here across the southeastern limb, but it's kind of hard to see. It might, because you guys barely see this right here, right? See a little bit of blue-orange right here in this area. That is probably it. We don't have a spectacular view of it yet, but it's coming. And you can see it there on the far side watch as well. If we go over here and look at the far side watch, this is from the 28th, so we got to click on it to get the latest from the Stanford Education Department here. That sunspot is right about here. Again, we're just barely seeing it there crest across the eastern limb of the sun. That may be an active area to watch for some future flares here in the coming days once it's into a more, or directed position here. And another one behind that. So we got two right here. Kind of look like two eyes here. I mean, I can see all sorts of shapes in here. Crazy. All right. So flare threat, still fairly minimal right now. I'm issuing a 1% or less for X-Flare. M-Flare, he's got 30% here at the solarham.com site. I got about 45 or 50. That's probably still a little bit too high, but I'm going to leave it up because we are looking at that sunspot area coming into view here really soon. No major auroras in the forecast there as far as any spectacular events. Just possibility there of seeing some continuation throughout the evening here. Oh, definitely watch that. Close approach asteroids here. Anything major going on? Nope. There's really not a whole lot. I guess that's good news, right? Everything that's 110 foot, 3 million miles away. Everything else looks pretty safe there. Not a whole lot of close approaches right now, and that's a good thing. Severe weather. Well, it looks like coming up here on day 6 here, even day 7. The Storm Prediction Center there has put out an early severe weather outlook. That's a huge area of concern there. It could turn into some tornado activity towards Friday into Saturday. Let me show you guys the numerical model out here, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. This all stems from a low pressure system that we're going to be dealing with here along the West Coast about Wednesday. That will work its way east rather quickly, tap into a lot of subtropical moisture here from the Gulf, and pulling up all that moisture will create that convection right there. Looking at potential there for some severe weather, so we'll have to watch that this weekend. We'll cover that as we get a little bit closer. More rain and snow out there across the California area and Oregon and Washington, of course. After that, we'll see what happens. Maybe another event as we head towards next weekend. But active conditions prevail here. It is getting close to the springtime, so that will definitely, no doubt, kick up. Seismograph stations out there all look pretty quiet for now, folks. There's not a whole lot of readings there on the live graph. Quick glance here at the earthquake 3D globe again. Got 3-pointer down there across the South America area. So keep an eye. Nankai Trough got a lot of strain right there. Keep an eye on this area of quietness. Like I said, this is a major seismically active area on any given day, and it's gone quiet here for about 2 days now. And normally it doesn't go much longer than a day, so things are probably going to be happening there soon. And I guess we'll keep an eye here across the Puerto Rico Trench region. Quite active there recently. In the meantime, folks, have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend out there. It's supposed to be 70 degrees today here in Northern California, 70 tomorrow, and then the rain comes in around Wednesday here for California. So got to get out there and get the grass cut, get everything prepared here for some more rain. Have a good one. We'll see you guys out here tonight for the Sunday night update.